My name is Andra. Welcome to ACE, Andra Constantine Expediting, a channel where we explore New York City code and legislation and how it affects the way we do business in the city, specifically the construction industry. Today I want to bring you a brief video about another piece of proposed legislation having to do with asbestos. So here we go. First, as usual, I'd like to take you to the plain language summary and read what this is about. So here in the plain language summary, we see the bill title is a local law to amend the Administrative Code of New York City in relation to requiring asbestos surveys and abatement after certain catastrophic events. And then it basically says the same thing in the summary. This bill would require the survey and abatement of asbestos-containing materials by a building owner following the occurrence of a catastrophic event which thoroughly disturbs the structure of a building. So now if we go from there and then we go to the actual bill, it will describe specifically what section is changing of what code and how. But it still leaves a lot of details out because they're going to leave it up to the DEP to make specific rules about it. So here we go. Let's go to the proposed bill. It's very short, one page. And here they're telling you what they're going to change. So first of all, it's intro number 2446. And this is from the Building, Housing and Buildings Committee. And they're going to add a section to the administrative code, the asbestos section. So section 28106. So they're going to add 28106.5. And I'll read it to you because it's short. Asbestos survey and abatement after certain catastrophic events. Where the structure of a building has been thoroughly damaged or disturbed due to a catastrophic event such as a collapse, explosion, or impact which has a severe material or detrimental effect on the structural integrity of the building, the owner of such shall conduct a survey to determine if asbestos-containing materials were impacted or disturbed by such event. Upon a determination by a certified asbestos investigator that such asbestos-containing materials were impacted or disturbed, such building shall require asbestos abatement to the extent determined by such investigator and as required by the rules of the Department of Environmental Protection. The Department of Environmental Protection shall promulgate rules in furtherance of the provisions of this section. Okay, so basically this is putting additional duties onto the asbestos investigators and owners of buildings. Now, remember, if we go back and look at the building code and the DEP rules and the administrative code, all of these sections will tell you that if the building was built after April 1 of 1987, it's exempt from asbestos investigation because at that point asbestos was outlawed. So assuming that if there was a catastrophic event and the building was built after April 1, 1987, that then it would be exempt from abatement. So let's take a look at some of these codes and see what I mean. Okay, so as we can see, and actually we should do side by side in a second, but we can see Article 106, that's the asbestos section of the Administrative Code. And you see it has 28106.1. This is important because here it tells you that thing I mentioned about April 1, 1987, and it's worded in different ways. Here they're saying the Commissioner shall not issue a permit for the demolition or alteration of a building constructed pursuant to plans submitted for approval on or before April 1, 1987, unless the application submits such certification relating to asbestos as may be required by the rules of the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. So again, they're saying that if the building was built on or before April 1, 1987, then you need to do asbestos. Another way of saying it is if the building was built on or after April 1, 1987, then you are exempt. So we see the sections 28106.1, 28106.2, 28106.3 permit exemption, 28106.4 definitions. So it ends with 28106.4, and now I'm going to bring up the piece of legislation as a side-by-side. And here we go. So we see the last section is 28106.4 definitions, but now we're adding 28106.5 asbestos survey and abatement after certain catastrophic events. So they're also saying in this legislation that the rules are going to be pursuant to the DEP. So let's see what the DEP says thus far. If we look at Title 15, which is the Department of Environmental Protection Section, Chapter 1, Asbestos Control Program, they describe when you may need abatement. So they're saying the purpose. The purpose of these rules is to protect public health and the environment by minimizing the emission of asbestos fibers into the air of the city when buildings or structures with asbestos-containing materials are renovated, altered, repaired, or demolished. So it may be that this section changes to say, or when there has been a catastrophic event. And then here's another section where, or area where you can obtain information about when asbestos abatement or investigation would be required. This is just a PDF portion of the New York City Buildings website. I went to project requirements, and again, it talks about 1987. Pre-1987 buildings may have plumbing, piping, and equipment insulated with asbestos or may contain walls, floors, ceilings, tiles, roofing, etc. made with ACM. These buildings, prior to permit and asbestos assessment, is required to determine whether the site is asbestos-free. Okay, so they're saying if it's pre-1987, you need to investigate for asbestos. So now they're telling you from the other perspective. They're saying if you're built after 1987, then you're exempt. So they're saying alterations to buildings constructed after April 1, 1987, exempt from asbestos certification requirement of the DEP. So basically, they didn't specifically state what type of buildings would need to have asbestos abatement after a catastrophic event, but they're adding a section to the administrative code to state that asbestos abatement is required or will be required on buildings that have had catastrophic damage that may have exposed asbestos. We're assuming this is buildings that were built after April 1, 1987. So that's it for this video. I hope this helps you. And as always, please remember that this is not law yet. It is currently with the City Council. It needs to be signed by the mayor. So first, the City Council proposes it, they have a hearing, they vote on it. Once it's unanimously accepted by the entire council, then it goes to the mayor for signature. So this is not a law yet, it's just a proposed bill. So thank you, and I will keep bringing you more. Come back soon. Bye.